We are back in session. We are going to go now to item E, which is Councillor Jones, R-25.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move approval of R 1825, establishing one-year objectives for the City of Albuquerque in fiscal year 2019.
We have a motion and a second by Councillor Gibson. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? Let's go and move to the floor amendments. Councillor Jones, floor amendment number 1.
Thank you,
That is item A in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an amendment that proposes the deletion of public safety goal objective for the Animal Welfare Department.
Do you want to move that?
Sorry, move approval of amendment number 1.
We have a motion and a second for floor amendment number 1 to R-18-25. Any questions? See none. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now in your packet under B, which is floor amendment number 2. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is amendment proposes the addition of a human and family development goal objective. I move floor amendment number 2.
We have a motion and a second by Council Vice President Harris for floor amendment number 2 to R-18-25. Any questions? See none. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now in your packet is identified as C, floor amendment number 3 to R-18-25. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move approval of floor amendment number 3 to R-1825. This amendment proposes the addition of governmental excellence and effectiveness goals.
We have a motion and a second by Councillor Borrego for floor amendment number 3. Any questions? See none. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now in your packets, item D, which is floor amendment number 4. Councillor Jones and Councillor Benton.
Is Councillor Benton still online?
No, he's not.
Okay.
We'll proceed.
Therefore, I move approval of floor amendment number 4. This amendment proposes the addition of public safety goal objective.
We have a motion and a second by Council Vice President Harris. Any questions? See none. Of those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say no. That carries
No.
unanimous. Okay, all those in favor say yes. Raise your hand. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Opposed?
No.
That
Three.
carries on a 6-2 vote.
3.
5-3 vote. Okay, let's go to item E in your packet, which is floor amendment number 5. Councillor
Thank-
Jones, Benton, and Davis.
Councillor Davis, would you like to speak to this? Or do you want me to introduce?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I move floor amendment number 5. It is an amendment that provides for the addition of public safety goal objectives. With all those details included, it simply directs that the city develop and execute an MOU with APS to begin figuring out a structure to formalize transferring our crossing guards to APS or coming up with appropriate compensation therefore.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Councillor Pena?
I didn't have any questions, but I guess since you said I will. Under the city of Albuquerque, they're paid basically year round. But if they were moved over to APS, they would become temporary employees. Is that what would happen?
You want to have its unemployment?
Actually, they are temporary employees or part-time employees, basically, but because of the rules in place and what the city is under different rules in a lot of areas, we must pay their unemployment or through the summer. If we were to turn this over to APS and give them the same as their salary, APS is not required to pay for the summer school holiday breaks benefits.
Okay, I won't be supporting this
And
amendment.
I'd like to comment on this also. I won't be supporting this amendment. I believe that the city of Albuquerque has done a very good job in working very closely with the Albuquerque Public Schools and keeping our children safe, especially with our crossing guards. You know, the police department oversees the crossing guards, and I'm not sure why we would want to turn this over to the Albuquerque Public Schools when I feel that APS has done the city of Albuquerque has done a very good job over the years in keeping our children safe. And to save a few dollars because of unemployment benefits during the summer months when these individuals are laid off, I just don't think is appropriate. I know they work throughout the school year. They're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning to be at the schools ahead of time, ahead of schedule before the kids get there. And the crossing guards that have worked for the city of Albuquerque for years, I believe have done an exceptional job in trying to keep our children safe. Counselor Gibson.
Well, I agree with everything you said. However, this was one of the first things I looked at in my first few months on council, and it's a difficult program for APD to manage. I don't know who manages it now, but the gentleman I talked with seemed to be very competent and very knowledgeable, and it is difficult. It's difficult to, and they do a good job, absolutely. But one of his complaints to me was that it's very difficult to decommission a crossing. So at that time, he had crossing guards. You're smiling. I think you know what I'm talking about. Crossing guards at crossings where nobody crossed the street. And, but yet he wasn't able to decommission them. So this was several years ago, and hopefully there's been some progress made on that. But I think I'm going to be supporting this because I think APS can do a better job. And I don't think I'm not supporting it because it's going to save us a few dollars. I just think that they will be able to, they will know where this should go, where these crossings should be. And I think they'd have better luck in managing it. So that's it. Thanks.
Counselor Davis, then we'll go back to Counselor Jones.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and thank you, Mr. President. I don't think we have to prolong this. It's certainly something that we can continue to work through. My reasons for supporting it are less about the small piece of unemployment and more about the fact that APS, and the PED, and the PEC, as they expand the number of charter schools and as private schools expand, the city's taking on the burden for that responsibility, and I think that should be included in their consideration of expansion and their cost of providing those services, and it's certainly much easier for APS and those schools and those principals to coordinate those staffs and not have to work with our folks. I just think we've grown out of the neighborhood school project and initiatives in our sort of neighborhood school sort of planning. I think it's time for us to give APS control of that because it is a function that's important to them.
Council Vice President Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think this is part of a broader look I'd like to do at the funding between APS and the City of Albuquerque. APS has about roughly twice the operating budget that we do, and but all of the funding seems to go from us to them. And as the city is, and this new administration in particular, is calling on doing some other things other than education for kids, before school programs, after school programs, those sorts of things. If we were relieved of some of these duties that APS really should do, I think it'd be easier for us to get involved in some other kind of ancillary, secondary kind of educational initiatives.
Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And there are a lot of reasons why this would work better in the long run. And I believe the administration would like to tell us their opinion.
Sure. Council President Sanchez, Councilor Jones. We support this objective both from sort of the broadest perspective that anytime we have an arrangement like this, just formalizing it through a memorandum of understanding just sets the stage for like a successful partnership. Particularly in addition to the concerns that other folks have voiced, there's the issue that sadly came up in the tragic incident in Councilor Gibson's district, where the mechanism by which APS informs us as to whether a crossing is going to be used at off hours is not at all formalized. And the last thing we want to see is another accident happening because we don't know that crossing guards are supposed to be out there because there's a fair across the street or there's an after-school program. So formalization of this understanding and this arrangement seems like it would have a lot of benefits in general, and it is no way intended to denigrate the great work that our crossing guards do. And I also echo Councilor Harris's sentiment about a broader look at all those relationships and funding sources.
Thank you.
And I know right now that this is an objective, but I would hope that we are reaching out to the Albuquerque Public Schools. I know Councilor Winter served as the superintendent for APS, and that has always been a challenge, but I think it's been a great partnership over the years between the city and APS.
Mr. President, I found APS to be incredibly difficult to work with, and that all the money comes from here, it goes there, and they don't even want to work with us. That's been my experience, so I think we could make it a partnership. That would be a start.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for floor amendment number 5 to R-18-25. All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Yes? Those opposed say no. That carries on a 5-3 vote. We are now in the packets on item F, which is floor amendment number 6. That's Counselor Jones.
And Counselor Benton isn't here, so I'll do this for him. Move approval of floor amendment number 6. This amendment proposes the addition of a community and cultural engagement goal objective.
We have a motion and a second for floor amendment number 6 to R-18-25. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes, those opposed say no. That carries. We are now on, Councilor Borrego? Okay, that carries on a 7-1 vote. Okay, we are now on item H, which is R-18-25. That's Counselor Jones and Benton. And that's floor amendment number 7.
Seems to me Counselor Benton isn't holding up his end of the deal. But
And that's item H.
move floor amendment number 7.
Correct.
This amendment proposes the addition of a community and cultural engagement goal objective.
We have a motion and a second on the floor for amendment number 7 to R-18-25. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, those opposed say no. That carries. We are now on item I. That's floor amendment number 8. And that's Counselor Benton. Did you want to carry that for him, Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move approval of floor amendment number 8. This amendment proposes the addition of a governmental excellence and effectiveness goal objective.
We have a motion and a second to floor amendment number 8 to R-18-25. Any questions? See none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now on item J, which is floor amendment number 9. Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move amendment number 9, which is on page 5, line 20, objective 12, complete a fiscal analysis for the establishment of a security guard program for city parks, community centers, health and social service centers, senior centers, and multi-generational centers. Report to the mayor and city council by the end of the second quarter of FY19.
Mr. President. Briefly, if I may, thank you, Mr. President. And just to ask the sponsor, can you clarify for me, I think, does this include expanding our current city employee security officers, or are you speaking specifically about contract officers? I see the contract listed out in the details there. I just want to be sure we're thinking of all the options.
I was thinking, I wouldn't mind either one, but I was thinking city employees,
Thanks.
the expansion of city employees.
I agree. Thanks.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second for floor amendment number 9 to R-18-25. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes, those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now on floor amendment number 10 to R-18-25. And basically, this is looking at the possibility in the future to add more Summerfest events downtown at Civic Plaza. Currently, I believe we only have the one during the summer, and then we have the one at Nob Hill and the one up on Albuquerque's west side. But with some of the renovations and some of the beautification that we've had downtown, and to bring and draw people back to the downtown area, I'd like to see in the future that we increase the number of events of our Summerfest. We have a motion and a second by Councilor Borrego. Any questions? See none. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes, those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now on item L, which is floor amendment number 11, and that is going to be Councilor Pena.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just give the explanation. This amendment complements the restoring of funding for summer and after-school youth programming and family and community services to be used specifically to address a waiting list of applicants at the city's facilities west of the river.
We have a motion and a second for floor amendment number 11 to R-18-25. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes, those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now under item M, which is floor amendment number 12, and that's going to be Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. This simply states that we're adding reporting requirements for the administration back to the council and essentially to the public to give us the progress on the testing of sexual assault examination kits and the progress towards hiring and training sufficient sex crimes detectives to follow up on those leads. As we've learned in this process, APD is rapidly advancing thanks to the budget we just passed, has the new tools to test all of our rape kit backlogs, but we want to ensure that if we expedite that testing, that APD is able to meet its hiring and training goals for new detectives to follow up so that we don't have a new backlog of cases sitting on detectives' desks.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Borrego for floor amendment number 12 to R-18-25. Any questions? See none. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now, I think we are done with our amendments. We are back in the bill. Any questions? Councilor Jones to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move approval of R-18-25 as amended.
We have a motion to approve R-18-25 as amended. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes, those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now going to go to general public comments. There will be a 2-minute time limit. The light at the podium will be green for the first minute and a half. Then the bell will ring and the light will turn yellow, indicating you have 30 seconds remaining to wrap up your comments. At the 2-minute time, the light will turn red, indicating your time has expired. I will call the first 5 names, and if you are here, be prepared to come to the front and be prepared to speak. The first speaker is Don Schrader, Mike Alvarez, Valerie Trujillo, Linda Starsberg, and Mary Nino. Okay, let's go to the next speakers. We have Art Tenenbaum, Tad Naminsky, Enrique Cardell, Gina Dennis, and Hope Alvarado. Mr. Tenenbaum?
Mr. Sanchez, members of the council, thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed your dinner. Are they still serving dessert? Anyway, we've run out of money. And who's been in charge of the money all this time? The re-elected members of the Albuquerque City Council. I'm glad we're on a first-name basis down here. It makes things easier and perhaps a little quicker. I'd like to review. Back in October, one of the councilors asked Mike, when's the art project going to be up and running? Mike said November. Well, he didn't say which year. Then in November, one of the councilors, oh, wait a minute, it was October, one of the councilors asked Rob, when's the art project going to be complete? And Rob said, well, you have to ask Mike. And then it was in November, Mike was asked, well, where's Mr. Perry? He's in Indiana. Nobody followed up to ask when the art would be operational. Anyway, the young man said that word that practically no one ever says in public. Poverty. That's what Tim Keller, our new mayor, spoke about. It's good to address poverty. If you don't think poverty has a direct correlation to increased crime, if you don't think severe poverty has a correlation to crime, I don't know what to tell you. Also, public safety is just like a fundamental thing. It's the most basic thing that a government does. I don't think public safety necessarily leads to prosperity. Again, I urge you all to get behind the mayor. Fall in line behind the mayor. Unless it's something extremely exceptional. That's the only way you're going to turn things around in this city and improve things. You all need to fall in line. I know you're unaccustomed to that. You just do your own thing. But please, fall in line behind the mayor.
Thank you. Your time has expired, Mr. Tenenbaum.
Yes, sir.
Tad Naminsky?
Thank you. My name is Ted Niemiecki. Another coffin to nail to the coffin by Sanchez, violating own rules and regulation, own charter. I'm talking about public speaking, moving to the almost to the end. So anyway, issue here: who wants to elect a U.S. representative who calling on TV commercial? Lawful gun owners using F words repeatedly. Do we have, well, do we have to elect or city council or whatever? Same way? Well, very respectful to the public who elected him. Just wait, have to wait how far he will go, of course. Davis. APD is higher. APD is for hire. Walmart, Home Depot, non-profits, organization, and even profits. Second stores, everywhere APD, but you try to get APD, well, good luck. That has to be big crime commit to get caught these days. Well, in fact, yes. Valley Command has only one lieutenant who just was promoted from sergeant. That's where we at with the APD. Yes, I see some progress, throwing those old-timers everywhere, from the top to bottom. Thank you.
Thank you. Enrique Cardiel, Gina Dennis, Hope Alvarado, Monica Stevens, and the last speaker will be Angela Gabriel. And they've all left. That concludes general public comments. We will now go to item 11, which is announcements. Councillor Jones?
Maybe I can go first, Mr. President. There will be a Mesa del Sol Tax Increment Development District Board meeting on Wednesday, May 30th at 3 p.m. in the council committee room on the 9th floor.
Councillor Jones?
There
I'll go
will
right
be
there.
an Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority meeting on Wednesday, whatever the date is,
May 23rd?
at 5 o'clock in the county, in the,
Thank you
these
very much.
chambers.
Councillor Jones, Councillor Pena. Well done.
Thank you, Mr. President. There will be an Albuquerque Bernalillo County Government Commission meeting on Thursday, May 24th at 5 p.m. in the Vincent E. Griego chambers.
Councillor Gibson.
There will be a Winrock Tax Increment Development District Board meeting on Wednesday, May 30th at 1 p.m. in the council committee room on the 9th floor.
There will be a Wantabo Hills Estate Public Improvements District Board meeting on Wednesday, May 23rd at 2:30 p.m. in the council committee room on the 9th floor. There will be a Boulders Public Improvement District Board meeting on Thursday, May 24th at 11 a.m. at the council committee room on the 9th floor. There will be a Montecito Estates Public Improvement District Board meeting on Friday, May 25th at 10 a.m. in the DMD Conference Room, 7th floor, room 7096. There will be a Lower Petroglyph Public Improvements District Board meeting on Wednesday, May 30th at 2 p.m. in the council committee room on the 9th floor. There will be a Sotillo Public Improvements District Board meeting on Thursday, May 31st at 1 p.m. in the council committee room on the 9th floor. There will be a Mesa del Sol Public Improvements District Board meeting on Thursday, May 31st at 2 p.m. in the council committee room on the 9th floor. And there will be a Trails Public Improvement District Board meeting on Thursday, May 31st at 3 p.m. in the council committee room on the 9th floor. Okay, we are now going to item 13, which is approvals. And this is OC6, the selection of a city auditor. The Accountability in Government Oversight Committee interviewed 3 candidates and submitted the following 3 names in ranked order. 1, Shannon Sanders. 2, James Thompson. And 3, Alan Gutowski. If I pronounced that correct. If there's anyone that has signed up to speak on this agenda item, we would first like to go to the individuals that are candidates here this evening. And let me go over the council rules this evening. The council rules provide a procedure for appointments made by the council, and we are following that procedure this evening. The ballots distributed by staff list the candidates in the same ranked order as submitted by the AGO committee. Councilors are to indicate the order of your preference with a 1 for your first preference, a 2 for your second preference, and a 3 for your third preference. After councilors complete the ballot, staff will collect the ballots and tally the results. Let's go and hear from the candidates that are here this evening, and we'll do that in order. Shannon Sanders, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I'm Shannon Sanders. a little bit about myself.
Yeah, let's have a little bit of history about yourself.
Okay. I'm a CPA. I'm also a certified fraud examiner. I graduated with a bachelor's in accounting from New Mexico State University, and I started my career here in Albuquerque at Arthur Andersen and then Grant Thornton. In 2004, I stepped out of the world of public accounting and into internal audit, and it just really sparked a passion in me for internal audit, because not only do you get the accountability and transparency that comes with these audit reports, but you get the chance to improve efficiencies and effectiveness of the organization, whether it's by project or department or process, and that just is something that means a lot to me. So in my career, my nearly 20-year career, most of it has been in internal audit. I was able to start 2 internal audit departments and run them, one in a manufacturing company and one in the healthcare industry. I also worked for REDW, which is a local CPA firm. I did strictly internal audit, and my main clients were Bernalillo County and the Mortgage Finance Authority. So that, combined with my current job at the Office of the State Auditor, has given me great insight into government accounting and financial reporting and the way that government works. So I applied for this position because it would get me back doing what I love to do, which is internal audit. It would help me protect the taxpayer dollars, which has become a new passion of mine in working for the government. Just improve that accountability and that protection of the taxpayer money and the resources of government. And then to be able to do it for my city and the city that I love would be even better. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Councilor Davis.
Very briefly, could you just clarify your earlier role for us with the State Auditor's Office? I think you had some
Yes.
impact there. Yeah.
I'm currently a financial audit manager at the Office of the State Auditor. I've been there about 2.5 years.
And in that, I'm sorry, Mr. President, and in that role, did you work under the direction of anybody that's currently in the new administration, from the mayor who used to be our auditor and some of their staff?
Not directly. There was always a layer of management in between myself and anyone who's currently here at the city from the Office of the State Auditor. There's a director of financial audit, and it's not an appointed position, it's a career position.
Right.
So she was my direct supervisor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Borrego.
Good evening. How long did you work for Bernalillo County as an auditor and also an MFA?
So I was at REDW for approximately 1 year, and I split my 1 year between Bernalillo County and the Mortgage Finance Authority.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have James Thompson. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President, honorable councilors. My name is Jim Thompson, and I'm going to adjust this a little bit here. And I've been in public accounting for over 28 years, and I started at Arthur Andersen, and I spent 10 years there. And at the end of my 10 years, I had an opportunity to transfer to Phoenix and burn my hands on the steering wheel and decided Albuquerque was the place to stay. And so I moved in with a company called Neff & Ritchie, and I made partner in Neff & Ritchie, and I stayed there until 2006 when we merged in with Moss Adams. And I stayed at Moss Adams until recently in 2017. I gave them 18 months notice and left Moss Adams. But for the last 25 years or so, I've done nothing but government audits. I did have some background in financial institutions as well for years. I've done a lot of fraud. I've worked on one of the largest fraud cases in New Mexico, 24 million years back. Just love doing audits, love researching and getting out and meeting different folks. And I'm glad to be one of the final 3 here today.
Are there any questions for Mr. Thompson? Councilor Borrego.
Sir, you mentioned that you've done some very large audits. Could you, without violating any rules, could you just maybe name a couple of those groups?
Yeah, I mean, Bernalillo County's on there. I was on there for years and years. We did it originally, and then we did it with the state auditor, and then we got it back and did it again. I've been the concurring partner on the city of Albuquerque for over 5 years. I did the audits of Los Alamos County. I was on the audit of City of Las Cruces, City of Farmington. I've done all the big cities. I've also done Public Education Department, Health and Human Services, and there's some of the bigger ones.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for your time. The next individual will be Ellen Gutowski. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President and councilors. My name is Alan Gutowski. I've had a 27-year career in accounting and auditing. I started out in the banking industry in the early 90s, worked there for a few years. Due to mergers of the bank I was working for with larger organizations and jobs moving on, I moved into the healthcare sector. I worked there for about 5 years in various accounting and information system roles. And then that company was merged into another one. Jobs went away, so I went over to Sun Healthcare, and that's when I experienced internal audit for the first time back in 1998. I worked there for a couple years until that company started to experience a bankruptcy. And so then I moved into public accounting for a little under a year, and then I became a public servant with the city of Albuquerque. I started working as the IT auditor. I moved up to a manager role. I played a role in helping develop new policies and procedures for the department so we could pass a peer review. We've since then passed 4 peer reviews. We are following generally accepted government auditing standards, and we have a very good shop. We have great policies and procedures that have been developed, and I think we have a really good department.
Are there any questions? I have one question, and that is in reference to your experience with the city of Albuquerque. How many years have you been employed as an auditor for the city before moving into management?
Before I moved into management, I believe it was about 5 years.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank all 3 applicants. We've got some really excellent applicants. Now it's the decision of the council. We have our ballots.
I still have a concern about Ms. Sanders and relationship with the state auditor's office. And Ms. Nair, were you in the state auditor's office? So I'm just wondering, is that office a lot bigger than I think it is? Because if she doesn't know any of you, I mean, is that true?
Council President Sanchez, Councilor Harris, I don't think Ms. Sanders meant she didn't know any of us. There are about 33 folks in the auditor's office. We all know each other. But I think what she said was that she didn't directly report to anyone here, which I believe was accurate as well. She was completely out of my chain of command, but there was, I think, 1 or 2 levels of manager between her and former Deputy State Auditor Sanjay Bhakta. You know, the nature of the auditor's business, we know pretty much every auditor in the state, whether, and have collaborated with them, whether they were internal audit here, whether they were contract auditors, or whether they were in our office. So that's just an occupational hazard.
Oh, okay, so you would know Mr. Thompson and Mr. Gutowski also for that reason. Okay, thanks.
And we also have here this evening the chairman of the Accountability and Government Oversight Committee, and he would like to say a few words. Mr. Perea.
Thank you, Council President Sanchez and honorable councilors. Again, my name is Ed Perea. I'm actually the vice chair of the Accountability and Government Oversight. Our chair has recently resigned, so we are chairless, so to speak. But I just came to just address the council here just on a couple of issues. While I did not participate in the actual interviews with each of the candidates, I can say that we put a lot of thought into it going into these interviews. This position was posted and reposted. We had a very difficult time finding that candidate we thought would be the best fit for the city. It was ultimately decided as of our last posting that we would conduct interviews. Again, as a result of a conflict in my schedule, I didn't sit in on the interviews. However, as part of the interview process, some of the questions that this council was asking about possible conflicts, Councilman Harris mentioned or followed up with the question asking about some possible conflicts due to the applicants' prior positions. We did ask, or the panel did ask, those similar questions to the candidates as they were interviewing the candidates. And the final 3 candidates, the council or the interview panel determined that we felt comfortable that there was not a conflict of interest or any conflict with their independence to act as city auditor.
Thank you, Mr. Perea. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Very good.
We are going to have staff collect the ballots, and I am going to move to table OC-6 while they tabulate the ballots, and we'll continue on with the meeting. We have a motion and a second by Councilor Davis. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes, those opposed, say no. That carries unanimously. Let's go ahead and move on to, and those candidates that are here, hang tight. We'll be back with you in just a moment. We are now on item B, which is EC 19. That is a lease and easement agreement between the City of Albuquerque and Verizon Wireless LLC. I move approval. We have a motion and a second by Councilor Borrego. Any questions? See none. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We will go to final actions, and that is going to be item B. Councilor Davis, R-11.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this will be very quick because I know we have some people still signed up for those other items as well. Mr. President, I'd move item B, which is R11, a nuisance substandard dwelling in need of abatement at 128 Wisconsin Northeast, and all those other things that go with it. So move item R11.
We have a motion and a second for R-11. Any questions? Yes. Okay.
And Mr. President, just for the record, I know Mr. Mestre is here available to speak and answer the council's questions if we have any.
We have Nancy Bierce signed up to speak on this item.
I don't see her. Oh, here she comes.
Welcome, Madam Treasurer.
Good evening, President Sanchez, members of council. You had me running there. As you stated, my name is Nancy Bierce, and I am current chair of the La Mesa Community Improvement Association. Let me catch my breath. I really was running. I'm here to speak in favor of the tear down of 128 Wisconsin Northeast. As you can see from the pictures that were attached to the resolution, excuse me, the property has been vacant and substandard since February of 2010. Thank you. It's been delayed with a foreclosure, other actions, and lack of city funding and staffing of Safe City Strike Force. This property is in the same block of two important revitalizations in the same block. The remodeled McDonald's between Wisconsin and Wyoming on Central, and the new building at Wisconsin and Central that replaced the old Cruise and Booze, not Brews, excuse me. I think some people did get bruised, actually. Yes. Liquor store, and it's a new dentist office and a drive-through local coffee shop. Again, I ask that you vote in favor of this final action, and then I'll patiently wait for the tear down of our additional, I think the count is 24 nuisance properties we have remaining. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go back to Councilor Davis.
Urge your support.
We have a motion and a second to approve R-11. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. Let's go ahead and move to take item OC-6 off the table. We have a motion and a second by Council Vice President Harris. Any questions? See none. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. And the results are in. And James Thompson, is that correct? Ms. Yara, was selected by the council. And at this time, we need to move confirmation of James Thompson to the position of city auditor.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. Congratulations, Mr. Thompson. Welcome to the City of Albuquerque.
Mr. Chair, could you, and to the folks who also applied and didn't receive a confirmation, I want to thank you all for taking the time and going through the process. I see auditors actually as a very good thing, because auditors help the city to improve our processes and our procedures. So for the gentleman and the young lady who were here before us today, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Let's go back to final actions, and that is item A, and that's O-16. That is a franchise ordinance granting Unite Private Networks LLC municipal authority to rent, use, and occupy rights-of-way and other public places in the city of Albuquerque and fixing the terms and conditions thereof. I move it to pass. We have a motion and a second by Counselor Jones, and there is going to be a 5-minute presentation from Charlene White. And after the presentation, we have one speaker. That is going to be Tad Dominski to speak on this item. Ms. White, go and proceed.
Thank you, President Sanchez and councilors. My name is Charlene White. I'm the Vice President of Real Estate at Unite Private Networks. On behalf of our company, I want to thank Lawrence Real and Sarita Neer, as well as Jane Yee, for all of their hard work on getting the franchise in the form it is to be heard before the council today. We are in the process of building 200 miles of fiber optic network throughout the city of Albuquerque to connect Albuquerque public schools. We'll be connecting 159 Albuquerque public schools facilities by April of 2019. So we look forward to being a part of your community and providing services to your schools. We urge your passage of this ordinance. Thank you.
So you did not have a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
We had one individual signed up to speak. That was Tad Dominski. He is not here, and Councilor Winter is going to recuse himself on this item. So we have a motion and a second on the floor for approval of O-16. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. We are now on item C, which is M-1. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm grateful for the folks who stayed with us tonight. I know it's been a long evening, but we also know that time matters, because there's a public hearing tomorrow night here in Albuquerque at the Crown Plaza Hotel on University from 6 to 9, where the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is taking public comment on this very proposed plan that we're considering tonight, and so we know timeliness matters. Mr. President, I'll move M1.
We have a motion and a second to move M1.
Thank you. And Mr. President, just very briefly, I'll explain it without reading through. This resolution relates to a proposal currently being considered before the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that would allow the company Holtec to transport or to store up to 100,000 metric tons of high-level nuclear waste in New Mexico. Although the transportation plans have not yet been finalized, there are a number of plans that have been considered or publicly speculated that would require the transportation of this nuclear waste on public railways that would cross the city of Albuquerque. Obviously, I don't have to tell anybody here what happens if something bad goes wrong, and we've all seen trains crash on the roadway. So we would encourage your support, but not before our public speakers get a chance to weigh in.
I will call the first 5 names, and if you're here, please come forward and be prepared to speak. We have seating available for you. Peter Clark, Sam Pruitt, Rosemary Blanchard, Janet Greenwald, and Carol Morell.
Sam there real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead and state your name for the record.
My name is Sam Pruitt. I live in District 6, and I attend Monte Vista Elementary, in which I am a 5th grader, about to be 6th. The plan to ship nuclear waste through southern New Mexico is a very bad idea and will be dangerous to every community it travels through. Kids like us need to be protected by our government, not put in danger. If the national government won't protect us, it's up to the city council to do what they can to protect their growing children who live in Albuquerque from being exposed to this dangerous nuclear waste. Please approve this memorial and see what you can do to see that no radioactive waste gets shipped through our city. Thank you all for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Sam. Councilor Davis.
Sam, very briefly, could I bother you one more time? Thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a long night, and I want to point out that this is, to my knowledge, at least your third time being here at the
This is
city.
indeed my third time.
We are very lucky to have you, particularly in Southeast Albuquerque. Your school's very lucky to have you. Thanks for extending your bedtime a little bit tonight to hang out with us. It'll matter. If we pass this tonight, are you going to the meeting tomorrow to tell them what happened? Somebody will with you? Somebody will help us with that.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, we'll work that out. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Councilor Davis.
Thanks, Sam. Great job. Rosemary Blanchard?
Hello, and thank you. Just to get a little bit of, let me move over. Okay. Just to get a little bit of radiated glory, I'm with Sam. In any case, my name is Rosemary Blanchard. I'm chair of the Albuquerque chapter of the United Nations Association USA. And I want to thank Councilor Davis for introducing this resolution, and all of you councilors for giving it serious consideration this evening, even at this late hour. Many years ago, I worked as a policy analyst for the Division of Diné Education in the Navajo Nation and chaired the social science department at UNM Gallup shortly thereafter. And I reference those positions because during my time working for the Navajo Nation and teaching at UNM Gallup, I kept encountering the effects of the indifference of the nuclear industry and federal government agencies responsible for regulating them and for protecting the health of civilians. In 1987, I sat in a meeting where an Indian Health Service official explained he had no legal obligation to inform a public school district in Sanders that the water their kids were using in the school was contaminated with radioactive waste. He had to take care of housing. He was digging artesian wells because of the radioactivity. He refused to tell the school district. We leaked it. But I bring this up because now the radioactive activity in Sanders is being raised like it was a new issue. I learned of it in 1987 and nothing has been done. We're a city. If we cannot count, I have more examples in my written testimony, but the fact is, if we cannot count on our federal government to protect us, then we must count on you. And my experience is we cannot, where it comes to the nuclear industry, count on our federal government to protect us. And so I encourage you to use your authority as our city council to preserve, protect, and promote human rights and human dignity, and promote and encourage the recognition and exercise of human responsibility here in Albuquerque by approving M18-1 and doing all you can to protect us from the shipment of any nuclear waste through our city. It's up to you. Obi-Wan Kenobi, we have no one else.
Thank you. Janet Greenwald?
Chairman and Council, thank you so much for considering Memorial One, and thanks to Councilor Davis for introducing it. This plan to ship nuclear fuel rods all around the United States is very ill-conceived. They'll end up in one parking lot. The idea is to bury them shallowly so that they're only a couple of feet under the ground. The kind of burial they're going to do could be done anywhere. Any nuclear power plant has a safe place, geologically, I believe, to bury these wastes within 100 miles of the plant. So the first misconception, I think, is that it's great to have all the nuclear fuel rods in the whole nation in one place. I think you're just kind of asking for an accident in that case. And the second ill-conceived notion is that it's okay to ship these nuclear fuel rods, which have no protection from terrorists, which are too heavy to be carried on our underfunded rail system, all the way across the United States and endangering millions of people. I want to thank you for being, I guess, the last-ditch resource to oppose this idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Carol Merrill, followed by Stephen Furgensky, followed by Robin Sindel, followed by Cider Marlene. Welcome.
Thank you, President Sanchez and council members. And thank you for considering this memorial. It gives me a measure of hope. My name is Carol Merrill, a retired librarian and teacher from North Valley, Albuquerque, published author. I've been a member of CARD, Citizens for Alternatives to Radioactive Dumping, for 30 years. Thank you for seriously considering this memorial. For my concerns, there is no way to justify hauling high-level nuclear waste across thousands of miles of aging train tracks, endangering countless communities such as ours. The canisters that Holtec is trying to get the government to pay for are defective. For one, they are not able to withstand the high temperatures of southern New Mexico. An engineer who studied Holtec's specifications for their proposed canisters told me this. Is this correct? The temperature around southern New Mexico sometimes reaches 120 degrees, and their canisters are not effective at that temperature. The canisters will be 12 inches up out of the ground, exposed to desert heat. Perhaps this project was not well planned. For another, it was reported by San Diego Union Tribune Thursday, May 10th, 2018, that there was a loose bolt inside one of Holtec's canisters designed to store spent radioactive fuel at the waterfront site of San Onofre nuclear power plant, which halted work for 10 days. This is recent. Looks like there are some serious problems with Holtec's engineering. Are these canisters they are threatening to send across the country through heavily populated areas? The trust is broken with that one loose bolt. For our energy concerns in this great nation, it's time to employ our natural genius to find more elegant, safe generators using wind, sun, water, tide, solar, geothermal for starters. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Furgensky.
President Sanchez, members of the City Council. My name is Stephen Verchinsky of the Green Party U.S. The Green Party strongly opposes any shipment of high-level nuclear waste across the United States to the proposed Nevada Waste Repository at Yucca Mountain or any other centralized facility. The Green Party believes that these proposals are part of a move to refire or fast-track commercial nuclear industry, providing a means for safe disposal. We deny that there's such a thing as safe disposal of nuclear waste. We propose making spent nuclear fuel and other high-level waste safer by vitrification at the site where it's produced or stored. I asked them, should Albuquerque help or allow for the transport of Holtec's cask in this destructive industry? What is the issue of transport? Well, there's over 2,000 high-level nuclear waste thin-wall storage containers that are half-inch thick. They can't be inspected inside or out. They cannot be repaired or maintained. They can't be monitored to prevent radiation leaks. The thin wall canister can crack and leak in short term from various environmental and manufacturing conditions. And there is no plan in place to deal with this. This is from the NRC's own reports in 2014. The Kronenberg nuclear plant in South Africa had a comparable canister leak in only 17 years. The cracks were deeper than the thicknesses of most U.S. thin wall canisters at 0.16 of an inch versus 0.50 of an inch. So some of these casks on here with the DOE in New Mexico, there's no plans to prevent leaks in storage and transport, and no plan if it does leak. There are no pools in New Mexico. Transport infrastructure problems are not addressed. New Mexico, Texas, and others are being deceived about canister safety. There's inadequate aging management plan, and there's unnecessary accident risks in transport and new storage. There'll be legal challenges on this. Urge you do pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Seidel.
Good evening, President Sanchez and council members. Thanks again to Pat Davis for introducing this memorial and to you all for considering it, seriously considering it. I just want to say that even if we have incident-free transport through New Mexico, through Albuquerque, even in routine transport, the NRC regulations allow for up to 10 millirem per hour of gamma radiation to be emitted. And that means that if you are near the railroad tracks, you can get between 1 to 2 chest x-rays or up to 40 chest x-rays, depending on if these transport trains are paused, which happens frequently at Albuquerque rail yards, paused for any given length of time. I was just set up at the rail yards market on Sunday and noticed that a number of trains paused for quite some time in the rail yards there, which meant that if any of those trains were carrying these radioactive canisters, we were all exposed, all of us there. And the economic drivers of our community really need that kind of development, and I would hate to see it hurt in any way due to these transports. So again, it's late. I know you want to get on with it. Thank you so much for even considering this, and I do hope that you will pass it, and I hope to see some of you at the NRC hearings tomorrow to speak out in protection of our city and the people of New Mexico. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Sider, Marlon, followed by Lucille Cordova, followed by Marla Painter, followed by Dick Harrison. Welcome.
Hi, I think it's Sister Marlene.
Sister Marlene, okay. Sister Marlene, I apologize.
But that's okay if I'm going to be
parochial school, so
cyber.
I definitely apologize. Go ahead and proceed, sister.
I'm Sister Marlene. I'm a Sister of Mercy. And I'm speaking in favor of this memorial. It really is our ethical duty to look at this whole national issue. And here we have a slice of what we can do. On April 30th of this year, 117 Sisters of Mercy met from the Northeast. We were from Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Albany, New York. And we all, those that were there, signed a petition that I gave and introduced to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And we wrote against moving the high-level spent rods of all U.S. nuclear power plants. I come from Vermont. We have them at Vermont Yankee. And I assure you, Vermont would love to be a nice, clean state and send all our nuclear waste to New Mexico. However, to send all this waste on rails for over 20 years is not just. We believe it is safer on the long haul to store the waste on site, except for those places where it is extremely dangerous, and to move them within 100 miles to a safe place. Thank you.
Sister Marlene, thank you. Next speaker is Lucille Cordova, followed by Marla Painter, followed by Dick Harrison, and the last speaker will be Melissa So. Okay.
You'll notice only the grandparents are around. We're the only ones that can stay up this late. I'm Marla Painter. Thank you, President Sanchez and members of the council, for entertaining this memorial. It is very important. I lived in Nevada for 23 years, the first part of my life, and I worked on the Yucca Mountain, against the Yucca Mountain proposal for 15 of those years. I've now lived in New Mexico for 21 years, and it seems to have chased me here, something about karma. I worked for various nonprofit organizations in Nevada that were focused on this, and I also worked for the State of Nevada Nuclear Projects Office. And I suggest you might want to get in touch with them. They're still working on it because Yucca Mountain still is there as a possibility. They have all of these years of knowledge about all of this, and I think it would, if you need to do more research, I think that would be a good place to go. You know, Mayor Goodman of Las Vegas, Nevada, did a very brave thing in the middle of this fight. He banned nuclear waste coming through Las Vegas, Nevada on the rails. He did that for obvious public relations reasons, but he also did it because he cared about the health of the people of Las Vegas. We're talking about waste that could sit in casts on concrete above ground storage facilities on site in the same exact way they would sit in southern New Mexico for the next God knows how many years. It doesn't need to be moved. The only reason they want to move it is so they can generate more nuclear power plants and create more waste. So for us to be put in danger of having these shipments go through Albuquerque for God knows how many years, I think it's more than 20 years, day and night, never knowing when it's coming through, so that the profits of the nuclear industry can continue, is a true disservice to our city. And I live 3.5 short rural blocks from the railroads, and I hope that you will consider the health and safety of us all.
Thank you. Dick Harrison? And the last speaker on this agenda item is going to be Melissa So. Welcome, Mr. Harrison.
Yes, my name is Dick Harrison. I'm a retired Presbyterian minister. And I want to thank you for considering this memorial. A priest and a minister found themselves by the side of a rural road, and they were holding a sign. It said, "The end is at hand." A young fellow came up with his car and stopped and rolled the window down, and then he angrily said, "You idiots," and he drove away as fast as he could and around the curve and out of sight. And then they heard the screeching of the brake and a big splash. And the priest turned to the minister and said, "Do you think we should get a different sign that says the bridge is out?" Well, I think when it comes to the nuclear arms race, whether past or present, the bridge is out. In a way, in this memorial, you will be making a decision. Will New Mexico continue to become the nation's dump for the storage of toxic waste materials whose poison will still be able to cause suffering and death 7 generations from now? Why do we have this problem? It's because our national leaders, in order to win a race, did not think about what would happen to the people. That's why the late John Glenn, Republican senator from Ohio, once said, "What good is it to protect our nation with nuclear weapons if we poison our people in the process?"
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. We are back on the bill. Are there any questions? Then let's go to Councilor Davis to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep it short because I think I've been outspoken by the folks who appeared. From the youngest to the oldest, I think we see the challenge of doing this and sort of I don't even know why somebody would start this process, but I think it's important that we do this tonight and urge your support so that they can transmit that message tomorrow to the NRC as they're considering this proposal. And thank you for everyone. As Ms. Painter said, it's only the hardcores who have been doing this a long time and know what it's like to sit up late and get organized and get things done, and we appreciate it for waiting out the city tonight, and we appreciate your organizing and working on this. It's important for the rest of the folks who couldn't be here, so thank you and urge your support.
Before we vote, let's go ahead and go to Councilor Gibson and then Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I greatly respect everybody here tonight to speak to this memorial and your positions and your thoughts on this. I know that they're carefully considered, and I do respect them. I have a little bit different perspective on this, although I think that we do probably share a lot of the same things. So I'm going to be doing something I've never done before, and I'm going to be abstaining on this. I spent many years working at Sandia Labs, was a prototype machinist, and I helped build the first True Packs. Those are the containers that you see traveling down the highway with radioactive materials. And they were tested every way you can possibly test those things. Now, I don't know, I've been retired for a long time now, about 10 years now. I don't know that those are the same ones that are used in the railways. But I do not think that they put something that's only 50 thousandths across, 50 thousandths wall. I do not believe that part. But I do respect what you're saying, and I'm glad that you're here saying this. I just can't support you on this one. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego, and then we'll go to Councilor Jones.
Well, I grew up in New Mexico. I grew up in Espanola, which is only about 25 miles from Los Alamos. And just not too many years ago, well, maybe longer than I care to admit, I remember when nuclear waste was being considered for New Mexico, and specifically in the southern part of New Mexico. And my hometown, Santa Fe, Espanola, was going to be one of the main routes to the southern part of the state. And I remember, families saying, no, we're not supportive of that. And, we talked with our legislators, and I was much younger then. And, it was pretty much, we were told that these containers that would be shipped down south were safe, and the nuclear waste would be stored professionally. It'd be underground. It'd be in these airtight containers that would never leak. And consequently, a few years ago, you hear about these containers leaking. And, this is in my great state of New Mexico, which I love dearly. And I commend you, Councilor Davis, for creating this memorial. I will not be supporting, I will be supporting this memorial because of the story that I just told. I grew up in this state since I was a child. I was born and raised here. I intend to die here. I don't want to die sooner than I have to. So I support you on this. Thank you.
Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'm going to take a little different look at this, and I certainly appreciate what you're all saying, and I appreciate how your feelings, and they are feelings. But I don't believe, this is a practical side of me, I don't believe that a city has the right to tell a rail company or the railroad what they can transport on their tracks. And I would like to see if the city attorney or would like to weigh in on this. I don't think it comes within our purview.
President Sanchez, Councilor Jones, I would need to spend a little more time analyzing it, but my initial inclination is that the federal government mandates what is and is not or what may or may not be transported. My understanding is also that the state of New Mexico is a participant in the Western Interstate Nuclear Compact. As far as the practical effect of the memorial, I don't know that it, I think it expresses the will of the council. or the desire. I don't know that it has an enforceable effect, but I'm happy to look into all of these issues and report back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. And what you're saying is a memorial, which I think we all know up here is simply expressing the feelings of the majority of the council who votes for it. But it has no legal ability to change anything, nor does it represent all of the people of the city of Albuquerque.
President Sanchez, Councilor Jones, I think that is correct.
Okay. And just as a matter of what I think I do as an elected official, it's very difficult for me to vote for anything like that because I certainly don't know that it represents the majority of the people, and I don't believe it is something this law will cause anything to change that's happening. But I appreciate you. I appreciate your passion, but I can't support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones and Councilor Davis. You've already closed. We will go to a vote. All those in favor of M1, raise your hand and say yes. Yes? Those opposed? That carries on a 4-3 vote and 1 abstention. All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. That's 4. Those opposed? That's 3. It carries and 1 abstention, so it passes on a 4-3 vote. Okay, we've got one more item on the agenda, and that is going to be item GR-37. That is approving a grant application for the Workforce Opportunity Investment Act training grant with the New Mexico Workforce Connection and providing an appropriation to the Department of Finance and Administration Services in fiscal year 2018. I move it to pass. We have a motion and a second by Councilor Jones. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes, those opposed say no. That carries unanimously. If there is no further business before this council, this meeting is adjourned.